Good morning, YouTube. Today, I'm going to tell you about the lessons I learned failing at my Turo rental car business.
Can't stop, won't stop. Can't stop, won't stop. Can't stop, won't stop. Can't stop.
So are you recording all of the nefarious activities?
I've got my shop dog Mo with me. Yes, he's going to help me with the numbers and with my emotional support because this is going to be rough. Hi, Mo. Hi. What you doing, huh? I know. You're looking for food. There's not a whole lot of food in here. Sorry, buddy. Oh, yes. Must sniff all the things. I got a little bit of a contest going on. Any of you who are interested in winning one of these clocks, sign up to my email list. That's all you gotta do. Sign up to my email list and be a subscriber. Share one of my videos. You do those things, you're automatically entered to win. You can sign up at my email list at normalguysupercar.com, so go visit my website. Or if you buy any of my merch, you're automatically entered as well. So either of those things, you got a chance of winning this cool clock. So if you're new to this channel, my name's Dan. That is my dog Moses. He's helping me out here in the shop. We do a lot of Ferrari stuff on this channel. We do a lot of DIY stuff. So if that's kind of your interest, you probably should subscribe or at least check out my other videos. And I do appreciate that when you guys do subscribe. So thank you and hit that thumbs up button. So my friends and I, we started a Turo rental car business. Ran it for a little over a year. We only have one car left in the rental platform. That's my Corvette. All the other cars have either been sold or pulled out of the rental system. So I'm going to explain to you why renting your cars on Turo is actually not a very good idea. It seems like it is at first, but it's actually kind of crap. And I know a lot of people are like, oh man, you guys are idiots, you didn't have a business plan and blah blah, and they gave me a bunch of grief in the last video, but people are making a lot of assumptions. So first of all, we actually planned this business out for 3 months before we even started. So there's 4 of us involved, and a lot of people are like, why did you have so many partners in the business? Part of that was our plan was to have 8 cars, 2 cars per person, which would give us a lot of data and a lot of diversity in our rentals. That also helps out because then when one of us was traveling for business or whatever, the other person could take care of the rental and things like that. Plus, each of us had a bunch of different skills that we brought to the table. So for example, one of the partners, he was a licensed car dealer here in Texas. So we bought most of the cars at auction or wholesale. So we got extremely good deals on these cars. So we weren't like just going out and buying random cars. Another example is one of the other guys actually wrote a program to scrape the data from Turo and do our own machine learning kind of algorithm thing and determine what cars were the best ROI. So we went into this rental business with our eyes wide open. We had a good plan and we had really good data. So we could use this data that we compiled to kind of have a good idea of what cars we thought would do best. And actually our data was fairly accurate. Based on the data we had, the cars that we bought, we knew kind of which ones were going to perform the best, and frankly they all performed pretty close to what we assumed. So that was at least at first. And that actually brings us up to one of the first problems with renting your cars on Turo is Turo is in control. They can change the game anytime they want. They can just arbitrarily change the rules, and that happened to us multiple times, and the rule changes actually dramatically impacted our revenue. And that was one of the biggest things was we at first made a bunch of money, and then eventually we weren't making any money. In fact, we were losing money. And part of that reason is when we first got going, Turo had 3 different insurance plans, and we took the mid-tier, which seemed like a good deal, but then Turo changed the policy and how much the mid-tier cost went up by another 5%, effectively making it so that no longer was a reasonable decision, and so you should go to the maximum plan, which then makes it so that you're not making as much money. Turo's cut got bigger and bigger, and our cut got smaller and smaller. That's just one example. Another policy that they changed is they added a $25 cancellation fee for any reason if we cancel, versus the renters could cancel all the way to within 24 hours of the start of their rental period with no penalty whatsoever. That kicked our ass because people would book our cars for like a week, and then the day before the rental they'd just cancel it and be like, never mind, I changed my mind. So those sorts of things would crush us. They would absolutely hurt our business. So during our 1-year period of running this business, we had well over 200 rentals, and we actually pulled in over $50,000 in revenue, which you think that's pretty good. We have 8 cars, $50,000. That's not bad. Well, the cars ended up costing us more than $60,000 in our payments and stuff. So that was part of the plan, was we wanted to buy cars that we actually wanted ourselves. We didn't want to buy crappy cars because that just didn't seem appealing to us. So we bought high-end luxury cars or sports cars, and then we financed all of them at really, really low rates through the banks. What's better than using your money for an investment is to use someone else's money for investment. So that was our policy, and that's what we did. Based on the data that we mined, we assumed that these cars should be able to break even or make a slight profit pretty much all the time. And like I said, at first that was true, and then that kind of went away. And basically at this point, all of our cars, no matter how good they were performing, are losing money. And so we decided to kind of fold the business and it wasn't worth it. So that actually brings up one of the first tips I'm going to say is if you're going to do this Turo thing, which don't do it, you shouldn't. But if you are, the first rule is you cannot buy cars that you are emotionally attached to. So buy cars that you literally don't care about. And a lot of these people who are like, hey, I want to go buy a Corvette and then kind of get some subsidiary income to help offset the cost through renting it, don't do it because that's probably your baby. You probably really are going to love that car and you're going to be really pissed because this comes to rule number 2, which is every single one of our cars, all of them, have been damaged. Not necessarily big damage. We're not talking like needing to replace fenders or anything like that, but scratches, dings, door dings, messy interiors, anything like that, it's going to happen. 100% guaranteed. It happened to all 8 of our cars. It will happen to your car. It's just a matter of time. So accept that your car is going to get damaged. Don't be emotionally attached to it. Those are very important rules. So another thing that people have asked is, couldn't you lease a car and make more money that way because the payments are cheaper? Probably, but probably not. I'm sure it's probably against the lease contract, and if you violate that, I don't know exactly what happens. The second thing is you're putting a lot of miles in these cars. So when people rent these cars, they drive them. Pretty much every time we rented our cars, we had 150 miles daily limit, and these cars would almost always get to that limit or exceed it. In fact, people went over on the miles very often. You're talking 150 miles a day on these cars when they're getting rented. So if you're renting them out frequently, you're going to get a lot of miles. They're just going to get a lot of miles. So the leasing thing probably isn't going to play out. And that was actually another part of the plan was if the cars could just be break even, then that basically meant that they were buying us an asset. And at the end of the game, we could sell these cars and then have this tangible asset that's worth something. Catch is that the cars were devaluing pretty hard, getting way more miles than we initially anticipated. And then, oh, hello. Hi. Someone's, Oh, yes, I know. You're so neglected. I know, Mr. Mo. So ultimately, if we got these cars for free and then sold them at some point, yes, we could have made some money on that. But you're talking cars that are now worth $15,000, $20,000 after 4 or 5 years of making payments on them. And in the meantime, you've worked your butt off. If you think about that, making $15,000, $20,000 for 4 or 5 years of an investment isn't a very good return based on how much money we put into it. What? So here's some of the ultimate problems with Turo is that number one, it's all about high utilization. So that means it's kind of a race to the bottom. In order to have high utilization, you have to have some of the cheapest prices in the market. And so that means everyone's putting their cars at lower and lower rates to compete with each other. And that's actually one of the biggest problems is you've got a lot of dumbasses kind of entering the market, putting their cars in Turo that haven't done the math. So we did the math and we basically said, okay, this is the lowest amount of money we can charge per day and actually have the cars be profitable based on how much money the cars cost us plus insurance and all the other things and factoring in depreciation and so on and so on. And other people would come in and undercut us by 10, 20, 30, even $50 a day or more. Who wants to rent the car for $150 a day when there's another one that's the same car for $100 a day? Even though maybe they've got crappier reviews, it's worth the risk, right? So that became a problem is that we kept having more and more people entering the market. It got more and more competitive and the prices just kept going down and down and down. So ultimately that meant that we had to keep lowering our prices and our profit margins went to zero and then became negative. And on that same point, another big problem is we were a business and we're competing with individuals. Some guy goes out, buys a Corvette and says, hey, I want some subsidiary income to help offset my payments. He doesn't really care about making a profit. He just wants to get a couple $100 extra a month to make his payments cheaper. So when you're a business competing with an individual, it's impossible because the motivations are different and therefore the requirements on the finances are different. Now, ultimately, that guy is going to be screwed because people are going to be beating the crap out of his car, putting damage on it, lots of miles, and depreciating his asset. But in the meantime, he doesn't really care if his payments are being made. Versus we're trying to make money, so it kind of isn't really working for us. Another major tip is if you're going to make any sort of money, you probably need to be located very close to the airport because of 2 factors. 1, time, and 2, travel costs. So we frequently did get airport pickups, and the problem with us is that we're far from the airport, all of us, all 4 of the people in this business. So for us to do an airport drop-off, we were having to take Uber rides that were costing us $30, $40, even $60 and $70 back home. And especially when you're talking rush hour pickups and drop-offs, then we're talking 45 minutes to an hour, hour and a half one way. So it started to become really painful. We would talk about 2-hour drives just to get the car dropped off. Plus we're getting charged another $60, $70 from Uber. Turo limits the amount you can charge for pickup to $120. So first of all, who wants to pay a $120 drop-off fee? And second of all, that meant that we basically basically would lose money even on those pickup fees. So it just became pointless for us to do airport drop off and pickup stuff, and we eventually just stopped doing it entirely. So if you're going to try and make any sort of money in Turo, you really have to be close to the airport, and you have to make sure that you can do it effectively, getting in and out anytime, day or night. Another thing to remember is Turo is not on your side. Turo is there to make money for Turo. So when we had issues and we contacted Turo support, they did not side in our favor very often. In fact, usually we had to have big arguments. It's absolutely a pain in the butt. So you're talking tons of time on the phone. If you're going to be doing this Turo business, you're going to be on the phone with Turo a lot. Not just even support, but also when you have stupid renters. We've had renters do some really dumb things, and we've had to have long phone calls with Turo to explain situations and make sure that we didn't get our butts kicked by fees or whatever. Stupid things like I've had renters who came in from out of the country and they rented it under the wrong name, and so I legally couldn't let them take the car because then it would be uninsured and blah, blah, blah. It took me like 3 hours on the phone, and I did all this work, and then the renter takes the car, and it turns out he's a total asshole and abuses the car and complains to me, and actually he damaged the car and all this started. And it was just total pain in the butt, and here I spent all this extra time trying to like make the experience good for him. That's another big problem, is you are at the mercy of these reviews from people who are kind of jerks. The majority of our renters were pretty good people, but I think that's more of a function of we were renting high-end cars. So people who are willing to pay $150 to $200 a day typically aren't these low caliber, as they call them in the Turo business, shooter rentals. There's a lot of people in the Turo business that go and they buy a ton of really cheap, like $5,000 to $10,000 cars, and that sounds like misery to me, because the people who want to rent them don't care about the car, and they're going to abuse these cars. They're not going to clean the cars and take poor care of them. And now you have to be constantly running around taking care of these cars, maintaining them, making sure they aren't breaking and whatever. If that sounds like something you want to do, if you want to have a fleet of 30 ship boxes, that's a way you could probably make money in Turo, but then you're a slave to this whole system, and that sounds really miserable. Think about the math behind having 30 cars if it's just you. You're gonna have to hire some people to take care of them, and that also becomes another one of the big problems is if you're gonna try and make money and you have a big fleet, Turo does not have tools to help you effectively if you're a business with multiple cars versus if you're an individual. They are designed to have individual renters and individual owners, not businesses. So as a business, it is very complicated. It gets tough because they don't have any sort of like multiple logins and stuff. It's just one account. It gets really complicated. The communication becomes very difficult. It is a pain in the butt. So one last quick tip I'm going to tell you to save your butt if you're doing this Turo thing is take a shitload of pictures before and after, and make sure you do it within 24 hours before and 24 hours after the rental. I'm talking like 60, 70, 80 pictures, not the 10 that they recommend. They only say like take 10 pictures or whatever. I would take 60, 70 pictures, close-ups of everything, close-ups of the wheels, close-ups of the tires, close-ups of the steering wheel, the dashboard, every single panel, and then of course I'd take wide shots as well. Everything you could think of, there's pictures of everything, and it's in your interest because if they don't have proof, they deny the claim and you're screwed and there's nothing you can do. So remember, Turo is out there for Turo, they're not in your interest. So protect your ass. Take a ton of pictures, make sure you're doing that every single time, and don't wait. If history continues to prove itself correct, you can expect a few things. One, more and more dumb people are going to enter the market and undercut it, and the prices are going to go down. So there's going to be more and more competition, the prices are going to keep getting lower, the profit margins are going to get narrower and narrower. Two, Turo's going to keep changing their policies in favor of Turo. So that means it's going to be harder and harder to make a profit, and it's going to get tougher and tougher to kind of have them settle in your favor when things go wrong, and the policies are going to keep getting worse and make it more in their favor. So those things I pretty much can guarantee are going to happen, so expect that. The only way it's not going to get worse is if the people who are renting out their cars get pissed off and form a union or something. I don't know. So ultimately, I don't think Turo is a good plan if you're expecting to make money. If you're an individual and you want to make a little bit of subsidiary income and you're willing to risk your car and basically say, yes, I am accepting that my car will be damaged and abused and have all these bad things and I don't really care about the car, then go for it. But short of that, don't rent your car in Turo. It's a terrible idea. We had a really well thought out business plan and it just didn't work, and it just proved to be a total nightmare. Tons of work, absolutely tons of work for very, very little reward. You can do many other things in the car world that make a lot more money for far less energy and far less risk than renting your car on Turo. So I'm sure now a bunch of these people who are currently renting their cars on Turo are about to put their comments below and be like, I'm making money, blah, blah. I've had people actually contact me on Facebook and DM me on Instagram and stuff complaining, I don't know what I'm doing and blah, blah, blah. So whatever, bring it on, bring it on. Hopefully I'm saving some of you guys from making a bad mistake. That's really the goal here is I don't want you guys to make the same mistakes we did. Don't do it. It's a bad idea. It seems like it's a good idea. Turo makes it seem like you're going to do really well and make all this money. It's going to be a badass thing. It's not true, so just don't do it. All right, guys, hopefully you enjoyed this, and if you did, please, again, give me the thumbs up, consider subscribing. We got lots of car stuff that we do on this channel, including tons of DIY work on cars like Ferraris, so if that is interesting to you, hit the subscribe button, notification bell. Those things help me get ranked higher in YouTube's algorithm, so I appreciate when you guys do that. We got a lot of car stuff coming your way, and again, subscribe to my email list, and you might be able to win that when I hit 50,000 subscribers, which should be pretty soon. Stay tuned, you guys. We're going to be doing a lot of car stuff. It's going to be sweet.